Jonah Ballow here for Knicks.com. We have a special interview with Clyde Frazier, who is celebrating his 70th birthday. 70 years of cool is what we are celebrating here at MSG. And first of all, happy birthday. And also want to ask you about looking back now and reflecting on some of the memories and everything that you've done in your career. What's maybe one moment that stands out that you can think of?
The Willis Reed game, winning our first championship, the way it evolved, and unequivocally, I had the greatest game in my career. 36 points, 19 assists, 7 rebounds, 4 steals, sold hot dogs at halftime. So I was ubiquitous that game, but there was nothing like winning that first championship, and primarily for the Knicks fans who'd suffered for so long, and they were really the catalyst for us winning that game, because when Willis came out, they became so provocative and started the cheering that I thought I could do anything, and that elevated my game to have the game that I had.
Now, when you're in your playing days and you're making that transition to broadcast, was that difficult for you? I know you had to stop there in Cleveland and then you came back to the Garden. What was that transition like for you to go from the court to the broadcast booth?
Retiring is devastating because you're like 34 years of age and you've been doing this all your life now. What do? I should have had a better game plan. Most players should have had a better game plan. I would say today maybe 70% of the guys do not make a smooth transition to retirement, because you see normally their marriages fail, their drugs, alcohol, a lot of different things happen to them. So it took me a 2-year transition to come down. I knew I was tired of playing. I had dreaded practice. I dreaded the game, so I knew I wanted out. But it still was a 2-year transition. The main thing I had to do was control my ego. You know, my phone was no longer ringing off the hook. People weren't calling me all the time, wanting me to be here, be there. So once I figured that out, and I had a game plan, you know, what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go, and then just kind of serendipitously I got into broadcasting. When I was inducted to the Basketball Hall of Fame in 1987, I was doing a series of interviews, and the Knicks people saw me and they approached me about, you know, doing some broadcasting.
Now, when you make that transition into the booth, now we hear the catchphrases all the time now, and, you know, some kids are growing up hearing you on the broadcast and starting to learn about your career. When did that begin? Was that something you did on the floor, or is it just when you started the broadcasting?
It was an evolution. On radio, there's more teamwork. The color guy doesn't really say anything. Yeah. Maybe when there's a foul, a loose ball. So the guy that I worked with was used to working by himself, so I never had a chance to say anything. So like if I start trying to say something, he'd go, "Excuse me, Walt," just run right over me. So if the Knicks were moving the ball around and making basket, I go, you know, he took a breath, I go, "They're dishing and swishing." You know, they're penetrating, creating. So that was sort of a necessity that I came up with the rhymes. But from the time I started doing this, I used to do a pregame, halftime, postgame show. At that time, Greg Gumbel was at the Garden. So pregame was in an element like this, control. Halftime, I had to go down on the court, man. It was so intimidating, you know, like, where's the monitor? Then time you start trying to talk, they start blaring all the loud music. So you try to project your voice over that. So I go, man, I've got to improve my vocabulary. Because normally, like we're talking now, we're not restrained by time, but normally we'll have 1 or 2 minutes to articulate something. You got to get it in and out. So that kind of led me to the dictionary when I started getting into words, how I could improve my lingo on the air. And then obviously from there, once you learn words, you can kind of become like a rapper. You can kind of rhyme anything that's going on.
That's interesting analogy there, being into rap and also creating your own style that people can follow. And now, you know, you're in their lives. You know, Clyde Frazier is in all these people's lives when they watch the games, when they follow you on the broadcast from afar. How does that make you feel, knowing that you're such a big part of not only the Knicks organization, but basketball as a whole? It didn't just stop from your playing days. This has now gone on, and we are celebrating 70 years of cool in Clyde Frazier. Do you ever think back to your Salukis days and growing up being a high school football standout and those types of memories, and now you're here at this point?
I pray a lot. I pray 3-4 times a day. Okay. I know it's a blessing, what I have, and it's so humbling. The fans, the respect that people show me everywhere I go, you know, supporting my restaurant, having websites on my dress and my words is just phenomenal. I never saw any of that coming, but it's kept me very humble and giving back to the fans. I've always had this love affair with the fans. Even when I played, when I went out, I never isolated myself. I go to the bar, I buy drinks, and I accept them from the fans. I talk basketball. But like many players, you never realize that the image that you're projecting when you play is going to follow you for the rest of your career. So I was very fortunate that I took time to sign autographs, talk to kids, talk to people, and they've never forgotten that.
You know, you had such a storied career for the New York Knicks, obviously helping them to 2 championships and what you've done since. I see you on the plane, behind the curtains, we're on the plane together, we travel. And at this point, why do you still do it? I mean, it's still a grind on these back-to-backs, and you've accomplished so much. At this point, what still drives you to do that?
I still enjoy it. I'm the oldest of 9 kids. So growing up, I rarely had a chance to be alone. So I relish my moments alone. I like to be alone. And that's usually why people stop going on the road. They get bored. I rarely get bored. I like to stay in hotels and do the things that I do. I continue to exercise and do my things. I see it as a rejuvenator. And a lot of times, like if we're in LA or Florida, I see it as a vacation. It's nice weather. I can do some things, work on my body and my mind. So right now it's still enjoyment, so I like what I'm doing.
It's so interesting on MSG.com. They have a timeline of your career, and you can really go through and see each moment from the playing days and the black and white when, the Knicks were just coming out, when, you were drafted and sort of, back to a dynastic sort of team and franchise. And then through the eras, Patrick Ewing, when you were on the sidelines broadcasting, what have you seen from the time that you were playing, into that middle point, we're in Ewing and you saw Pat Riley here and Van Gundy and those eras until now and what you see on the floor?
Well, when I retired, I thought the league would fold. Very few teams were making money, so it looked like they weren't going to last. So I kind of had a hiatus. I was burned out. I didn't follow the game for 4 or 5 years during that stretch. And then Magic and Bird came. And they started the evolution of the game, and then Jordan and Barkley and all these guys took it to where it is today. So, but the Knicks had some lean years there with Bernard and those guys. I mean, Bernard was prolific, but the team wasn't winning. You could literally sit in the garden, and I could yell across the garden like, "Hey, meet me at Clyde's after the game." Yeah. That's how quiet it was. There were maybe 8,000 people. So. Excuse me, for me that was devastating because I'm used to this place, 19,500 vociferous fans yelling, screaming, Knicks competing. So to go through that transition that they did, and then 1985 we had a stroke of luck to get Patrick Ewing. And then the team was back in the prominence again with Riley. They had a nice run. Unfortunately, they didn't win a title. They were right there, but since that time we've been kind of languishing up and down. A couple of years ago, Woodson catapulted the team. And now I have a lot of faith in Phil Jackson. He knows what it takes. He's been here, done that. So this year's going to be crucial, of course. We have cap room. We should have a good draft choice. So it's going to be essential that Phil come up with the right players now to build that foundation, and then maybe 2 or 3 years from now to try to talk championship.
As I said, you share your life with so many fans, across the country. I see you on the road. Everybody comes up to you. Everybody wants to talk to you. I'm exhausted watching you have to deal with all that, but you do it with so much eloquence and pride, and just it's so great to watch your personality on the road with the fans. But what is something maybe we don't know about Clyde Frazier or, Walt when he's not Clyde, and behind the scenes when you're alone or away from the game? It's something that you like to do that's totally separate from broadcast and basketball.
People will be amazed at my domesticity.
What's that mean again?
Like I mentioned, I'm the oldest of 9. So I have 7 sisters and 1 brother. My brother's the youngest. So I can change diapers, I can burp babies, I can sew, I can cook, I know how to clean.
Okay.
I press all of my suits. Right, I don't rarely send them to the dry cleaner because I have so many suits that I don't have to go. But I iron them, press them out for each game. Save a lot of money doing that. I do my own cooking. I have my George Foreman grill. I make my food. Sometimes I eat from the restaurant. Certain things I get from the restaurant. So that part of me, in my house in St. Croix, People would be amazed that I never dress up. I wear shorts and T-shirts the whole time I'm there. And I created this whole environment for myself. I have a lot of rental units, some with ocean view, some with a garden view. I'm really into plants and trees. So I landscape, decorated, designed the whole thing that I have there in the Virgin Islands. I'm also a sailboat captain. I love sailing around. So these things, people would be surprised when they think of Clyde. They just think of, my alter ego out partying, driving Rolls Royces, having a good time, and not being somewhat of a farm boy, really, when I go to St. Croix, trying to grow my own food and do that type of thing.
All right, finally, you got to tell me one favorite outfit, if you had to pick one, and your favorite catchphrase.
Well, the outfit everyone else is the cow. The brown and white cow suit, that's been the crowd favorite, so I'll go with that one. My favorite catchphrase is probably dishing and swishing. That's one that kind of, when I came into the game, the New York fans put a lot of pressure on me. Because I'm the type of person that if I'm a basketball player, the average Joe shouldn't shoot better than me, shouldn't make more free throws than me. Right. I have to have a lot of pride. So when I'm talking to New Yorkers, they're saying transition, and I'm saying fast break. And I'm saying passing, and they're saying dishing. And I go, wait a minute, man. If I'm going to do this, that's how, they're talking about versatility and continuity. So I go, man, I've got to really step up for this. So just from being around the game with the dishing, and then I told you once I learned the words, I just said, hey, man, they're dishing and swishing. The guy passed the ball and the guy made a basket. So dishing and swishing became one of my, pounding and astounding. I have books and books of words and phrases from when I was on radio that I used to study all the time. Mm-hmm. So that's how I came up with the rhymes. It's over a period of years that I developed that type of lingo and the having the fluidity to just, on the spur of the moment, just see something, stumbling, bumbling, wheeling, dealing, creating, devastating, just to come up with those phrases.
Incredible. You created a dictionary for basketball, two-time NBA champion, a Knicks great, an NBA great, a guy who's pressing his own suits, also cooking his own food in the George Foreman. You've done so many great things, but above it all, you're a great man, and it's been a privilege to join you the couple years that I've been here with the team, and a happy 70th birthday. We appreciate your time so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, and especially to all my fans out there. Thank you as well.
There he is, Clyde Frazier, right here on Knicks.com.